Hello.
Hello.
It is Amanda Melby, and I am back here on Facebook Live this time with our re-recording mixer for Raising Buchanan, Abbott Miller. Hi, Abbott.
Hi, Amanda. You.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. Where are you?
I am in my house.
Oh, you've got lots of guitars behind you.
Yeah, my music room, my little man cave.
Aha. Do you play all of those?
From time to time. You're only seeing barely half of them.
Really?
I play the ones over there a little bit more, but yeah.
Okay. That's a lot of guitars.
Yeah, I like to say I have two hobbies for work.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite guitar?
Yeah,
Uh, that's like asking me to choose between my children if I
I
had.
know, right? That's why I'm asking.
That's a,
You
that's
you probably don't, but
No, I enjoy all of them for different reasons. I'll put it that way.
okay. And so what do you need all those guitars for?
Oh, needs and wants are, yeah, that's a tricky question.
Yeah,
Some are in different tunings, but every guitar has their own feel and their own sound.
yeah.
So it's fun to play all of them and to have that variety.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what is it, first of all, what is a re-recording mixer? What does that actual title mean? What does that mean?
It's basically
Re-recording mixer.
it's basically the engineer who puts together all of the elements that comprise a mix, from dialogue, music, and in my case anyway, because sometimes in the big productions, re-recording mixer will actually fall into uh, teams of two that may actually be re-recording mixers on the same movie. Um, and some might just do Foley sound effects and backgrounds, and um, the main uh, re-recording mixer will do the dialogue, music, and they'll put together the whole mix from all those different elements. In my case, I'm a one-man wrecking crew, if you will.
Yeah.
So I have to wear many hats, and so in my case, it means putting together all of the mix from all of the different elements.
So you start your job when a lot of other parts of the movie are already done.
Yes,
In theory, right?
I like to always joke we're sort of last in the chain and forgotten about until we actually have to do it.
Yeah, when you come into the picture, I'm getting questions from people like, okay, when is it going to be done? When, what's happening with the movie? And it's like, oh, we're still working on it. It's just now in the hands of, somebody else who's doing their specialty. In this case, it's you, right? So the edit is done, right? The picture lock is in theory.
Yes, good to
I know in our case, we did that a couple of times on you, but so the picture lock is done, right? And then you take all of the audio that was recorded while we were filming, right? And then how many tracks are there? What do you do with all the dialogue? You do the dialogue first?
Yeah, so
Okay.
typically, yeah, you'd have your production sound mixer who captures all of the dialogue recorded on set, and they'll have multiple mics. I don't know how many mics you guys use on this one, but typically you're using some booms, some lav mics, and then in the edit, Brett will go through and kind of organize that per scene as he's putting the picture together with you guys. And when he's done, he will send all of the elements to me along with the picture lock, so that I can begin to work on it. And we finished this a while ago, so memory's a little fuzzy, but probably sent me about, I don't know, I'm going to guess about 18 tracks worth, maybe something like that. And so the first thing that I will do is organize all of that into my um, Pro Tools session, my template.
Okay.
And I'll go through and sort through all of the dialogue tracks, and I'll put them where I want to line them up in my session to work on. And then I'll split out any of the pre-made effects, temp effects that you guys may have been using in your edit, and I'll put those out onto my effects tracks. Same with the music. Typically, there's not really many temp backgrounds that are done. It kind of depends on the director or the editor if they want to hear the um, rough, mix while they are doing the edit. With those elements, they can add some if they want, just for temp, purposes.
Okay.
I don't think that was the case with this film. And so, yeah, the first thing I always like to do, this is just my workflow, is to go through and do a dialogue edit, which, without getting too technical, it just means I'm going to go through and try to make the dialogue sound as smooth as possible, pick all the best microphones, do a general noise reduction pass, smooth out all of the room tones, and just try to make everything sound like it was happening, as perfectly as I can in place. And that typically takes, I'm going to say it varies, but roughly 10 days to 2 weeks, roughly, to kind of get through everything.
For a feature.
An hour and a half, you have a lot to go through. There's a lot of editing, cleanup. You're also taking out mouth clicks or extemporaneous noises, digital pops, and just going, and also trying to pull any production effects, which is effects that occurred in the scene that we can use and save. Fully. So if there's some particular sound of something falling off of a table, or maybe it's a door closed, if it happens to sound good enough, I like personally to try to keep the authenticity of the sound in there as much as possible. And of course, everything else that we can't keep will replace. So it's a bit to get through, but it's one of the most important things, and especially on a film like Raising Buchanan, because it's almost all dialogue, the whole movie, with Bruce's excellent script it's just so dialogue driven that it just has to be as clean as we can make it. And then of course I'm also having to mark areas where we might have to do some ADR, which is replacing the dialogue. Not everything on set can be captured perfectly. So sometimes some things are simply unsalvageable, and so we have to make arrangements to replace the audio altogether.
So what makes it unsalvageable?
Well, it can be anything, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, but once in a while it can just be a production sound mixer just not hearing it well, and maybe the mic is way too far back, and there's just way too much room noise and hollowness in the sound, and oops, the lav battery died, so we don't have a good recording of what happened on set then. But other times, frankly, and mostly, it just has to do with the environment. Sometimes it's just in too noisy of a location. And some of those things are just hard, unavoidable. ADR is a fact of movie life for most of us. It just is what it is. And so, but it really wasn't too bad. I seem to recall we only had to do a few scenes, with you and a few other actors that we brought in, and of course some added lines with some special guests and stuff. And so it wasn't very painful on this one.
So I have a picture here. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is your studio.
Yeah.
This is Amp Studios, and there's me.
That's you on the screen.
And there's your monitors. I don't know where you were. You were probably standing out to the side or connecting something. But so this was a scene where we were in a restaurant, and there was some buzzing or some like noise in the background, right?
Correct.
So this was one of the scenes that we had to ADR.
Yes.
And there were just a couple of lines I remember in this scene, but
yes.
So yeah, so we've got the time code up there, and then I have to come in and stand in the booth, right?
Yeah.
And then watch myself back
Aimless.
over and over and over and try to time it up, right? So there's your booth. There's me in your booth.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wearing my Buchanan shirt.
Yeah.
And so in the picture, we can't really see, but if I face the microphone, then I've got a monitor in front of me there.
Yep.
And then you're off to the, on the other side of that.
Right. Yeah. In front of
I find that incredibly difficult.
Well, you're not alone. Uh, ADR is an art form,
Yeah.
and some people are, just have an almost undescribable knack for being able to do it well, and most people kind of struggle with it. It's a very tricky thing to pull off.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a nice shot of the.
Yeah, so this is the music stand. I'm standing behind it, and there's me. Same time code as I showed on your monitor on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And then there's my little, what do you call that? My little script down below.
Yeah, so that's the ADR sheets that I make. So I've got the character name, I have the take number, and I have the time codes listed of when our line of dialogue, which is written in that big box there, what it is that you need to replace. So I think in this case, in that particular scene, you're right, there was some weird buzzing kind of noises, but I think there was also some distortion in the particular set of lines, which it just, technical stuff, I guess it just happens from time to time. And I believe I don't remember if we had to replace that pre-QC or maybe that was a post-QC note, but either way, we had to add that to the list and have you come in and loop record. And as you say, so for those who don't know how the process works, I will put a set of 3 beeps into your headset there as a picture, and that the 3 beeps are your cue. So it'll go beep, beep, boop. And then when the 4th beep were to happen, that's where you start your line. So I think if you'll remember, I played you the line probably 3 or 4 times so you can hear it. And then your job as an actor is to try to replicate the way you said that line, in the movie. And then we'll go and replace that. So I don't remember how many takes we did, but every time you do it, it's usually at least a handful of takes to try and get it right.
Yeah.
And we have to, of course, the tricky part is not only do you have to match your performance, but you have to match the sync as close as possible. And if you can't, then I just kind of have to use my tools and wizardry to get you to match exactly.
One of the other issues for me, I think, was that my pitch was just different. Like for whatever reason, vocally, I was in better shape or more prepared or something when we were filming. And so my pitch was actually lower. And then some of this ADR, when we went in, I just was, more strained or something, and it didn't match as well.
Well, that's the tough part about recreating it is, a different day. It could be allergies. You could have not had enough sleep the day before.
Yeah.
Somebody in the time of day, maybe, I don't know what time of day you recorded that scene, but if you came in the morning for the ADR and your voice wasn't warmed up yet versus maybe you filmed that scene at 8 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning when the restaurant was closed,
Yeah.
But all that makes a big difference. Not just kind of being in a sterile environment versus, wherever you guys actually shot that scene.
Yeah.
So all those factors come into play, and that's what makes it kind of tricky.
Yeah.
But you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't my first time doing ADR. Part of it is like a control thing for me, probably, if I'm being honest. I like to just kind of each take, I want to do it a little bit differently. So
yeah, a little bit.
It feels a little bit restraining when I have to try and do it the exact same way.
Yeah, because you don't feel like maybe you're acting it, but that's how you acted it at that time.
Yeah. So it feels a little odd, but the other thing that we had to do was come in and we had to fill in a little bit some extra dialogue, right? So this is Troy,
Yeah.
and he was in our happy birthday song,
Yeah.
that scene. And so we had to come in and add a little bit. So he came in, and then Jamie, his wife, was also in that scene. And so they came in and gave us some extra dialogue that we could just put in the background. What would you call that?
Yeah, that's kind of just doing some background walla, I guess we could term it. Except
Okay.
by definition walla, but it's sort of acting like walla. Walla is that sort of incomprehensible crowd, sounds where you can't really distinguish what people are saying. But
Mm-hmm.
this background audio, it wasn't ADR because we weren't really thinking anything to picture per se, but
Right.
we needed to get some of the extra sounds of the people coming into the room
Mm-hmm.
for the happy birthday song. And so yeah, we wanted a little more of that out uh, office spacey kind of sound. So I remember we took the microphone out of the booth into the control room where it's just more air in the
Mm-hmm.
control room there, and had them do a few takes. I think they enjoyed that.
Yeah, they had fun. It was fun for them to come in and do that too. Okay, so Bruce Dallas and Bruce Nelson are both watching. Hi, Bruce's.
Hi, Bruce.
And
Bruce.
Joe Gruberman. Yeah, Joe
Yeah.
Gruberman is watching us.
Hi.
And Kay Gray, who's our key makeup and hair. I don't know if you've ever met Kay.
I don't think I've met her.
Oh, okay. And then
That's
Scott Lentz. Oh, Scott. Scott's from Lancaster. So, hi, Scott.
very nice.
So, question for you. Bruce selected a lot of songs for this movie. Did that make it easier or harder to mix the sound?
No, not an easier or harder thing.
Mm-hmm.
Song choices were unusual, I would say, on this one. Who would have thought old mining songs, right? If I'm not mistaken. Uh, but it was sort of the diegetic audio, I guess they call it, where it's the music coming in, through the speakers or the radio,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff, mostly, as opposed to just score, which I believe Bruce's friend composed some piano
Yep.
for this. Uh, but no, this actually was a little bit unusual for me in my experience of mixing movies. I don't know how many I've mixed, but I think I'm coming up on must be 30 movies or something at this
Wow.
point. Um, but there was not a lot of score in this. Actually, this was the least amount of score that I've had to mix in. So, was it harder at all? No. I mean, it's always kind of the same, or it is what it is. And because there was so little of it, it just meant really focusing more on the dialogue, because that, like I said at the beginning, this is such a dialogue-driven movie that is by far, the most important element
Yeah.
here. So it's almost like when we got to music, it was like fun to mix it, because it was like, here we go. Now I'm in my element here. I'm going to combine the music with the dialogue here and make this all work together. So I enjoyed that.
Oh, good. And when does the Foley fit into all of that, into the process of it?
So shout out to Adam Hecht, my Foley guy.
Yay, Adam!
Hey, Adam. So Adam and I probably spend about 4 days total-ish to, I bring him into the studio and we go through watching through the whole movie without dialogue. Any production audio that we can't salvage, we have to recreate. So it's every hand pat, every cloth movement when actors are moving, um, every little sound like that, every footstep, um, every glass going on a table, every anything that gets dropped, sitting on a couch, all those noises have to be recreated. So that we usually go through and we'll record for about 4 days.
Wow.
And then Adam will also do some stuff at home, and he'll do some extra elements that we might not be able to do at my studio. I don't have the best setup for Foley, but we can get the job done. But anything that I can't get, Adam also does production sound, and he has nice gear, and so he'll be able to go and do other things either at his house or on location if he has to
Okay.
record what we need. And I believe I also had him do all the footsteps on this one as well.
Hmm.
In this case, we probably use mostly sound effects um, from a library to replace that for Foley. Just going by my memory on this one here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a time-consuming process, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's necessary to fill in sort of all the gaps and holes that production audio can't capture. Uh, and then, as you know, we have to have that to make the M&E mix for distribution, which is the foreign language version, M&E being the music and effects only version, so that when this goes overseas, they can redub basically just the dialogue into whatever language, whether it's French, Spanish, or what have you. But the rest of the mix elements are there, and they can just mix the dialogue in. There's the movie.
What about all the eating? Like I eat in almost every scene in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
How does that affect it?
Well, first of all, I don't know how you didn't gain any weight filming this. But,
Stress, Abbott, stress.
well, yeah. But we actually, believe it or not, we ended up, when Adam was in, we ended up taking a lunch break, and we would go to a place literally where we could order French fries, for example. We were in the restaurant with the fast food, and then I would film him or record him eating the French fries. So a lot of that.
Oh yeah, and there was we did there's nachos in one scene, cereal in one scene. There's a whole lot of food that I'm eating
Yes.
in this movie. And as I watch it back, it looks to me like it's my sound eating the food I'm eating.
And chances are it either was or was to a limited degree, and then
Mhm.
we either enhanced it or replaced it. Yeah. Because
Mhm.
I believe Adam also ate some cereal, a few other things. So he might have gained a few pounds
Yeah.
actually.
Okay. What's the most challenging or difficult part of your job?
I don't know if it's, I mean, I think the technical parts of it can be very challenging at times. Uh, and my experience is the deadlines are very challenging because, like I said earlier, audios usually last in the chain. And that would be okay if there was a set schedule, but that schedule seems to always get blown out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is the edit runs late, and the production might run late. The edit almost always runs over, and by the time the producers and such or whoever, distribution companies or whatever it is clamoring for it, it's like, hey, we had 6 weeks for this, but now we don't have that time. Now you have 4 weeks. You have to get this done. So um, it's always kind of stressful to work on. What almost typically happens is working on a condensed timeline because there's so many elements. And as I said, on a big movie, you could easily have a crew of 6 people working on everything. And I'm lucky to have 2 and once in a while 3
Mm-hmm.
uh, people, but mostly, I'm doing 85% of the work. So it's just tough to fit it in.
It doesn't seem like it's something that you can do quickly or rush. It just, I mean, from an outside perspective, it would just mean more hours. You'd have to just work longer days, right, to get it all done because there's no way to speed it up, right? Unless you have more people.
Yeah, unless you have more people, but you're
Yeah,
right. It's the
yeah,
old adage, good, fast, or cheap, pick any two.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, you can't, I mean, ideally, I'd almost always want another week or 2 to work on things. It just never works out that way, but
Yeah.
it's a lot to get through, and you just have to do the best with the limitations that we all have to work with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and typically, they always end up coming out to where I think uh, people are happy with them. So,
Oh yeah.
and really, from our perspective and the engineer's perspective, as long as the director's happy, we're you know, we're happy.
Yeah. What's on the flip side, what's the best part about what you do?
I just love the creativity of it, you know. Always fun to work with different people, whether it's doing movies or documentaries or just commercials or corporate videos or whatever. It's still always fun. The sound design is always fun, um, and of course working with good people always helps, and that's always fun. It's always great, you know, working with you and with Bruce, of course. And I think the last time we actually got to work on a project we were all involved in was Nether Beast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it
like,
might have been. Here's another picture.
oh yeah.
There's me again. How many monitors? You must, gosh, you have like 3 monitors I see now.
I do.
Oh, there's my friend Val in the background.
Ah,
Yeah, there's Bruce, and you in your studio.
oh, look at that. I'm wearing the same shirt today.
Oh, we couldn't have planned that better.
No, I guess not.
Oh, that's awesome. That's also very funny. You have 2 booths. I see. We never went in the other one. What do you do in the other one?
No, that's just my machine room. That's where my
Oh,
computers and my rec gears
oh,
stored there, and general sort of utility closet. So
okay.
nothing exciting back there.
Yeah. How did you get into this?
Well, the short story was I was a musician after ASU, going to a Musicians Institute in LA, and ended up hurting my arm really badly. I couldn't play guitar for like 6 months. And while I was getting therapy, I was like, well, really need to have a plan B here. And so I ended up looking at recording schools because I had always had an interest in recording. And when I went to recording school, um, I that's where I discovered post-production audio. I was like, oh, you could do audio to picture. You don't have to be involved in music. And I thought maybe I would burn out if I was mixing music and trying to play music, 24/7. And then I thought, well, first of all, this is fun. I remember working on replacing audio to um, Clint Eastwood movie. Actually, it was the "You Feeling Lucky," you know, and it was a lot of fun to go through that, and I really enjoyed it. And I just thought, I'd like to kind of see what this is about more. And then one of the teachers over there, when I asked him, well, what's the difference between going, uh, to intern at a music studio versus a post-production audio post house, and his answer was basically, well, if you get into music, you're going to be a runner for a couple of years, and you're going to be working overnights and late nights, and you'll be lucky to get in at 3 a.m. for a half an hour to play around in the studio, getting coffee, this kind of thing, and you won't be getting paid for a while. Versus if you go to an audio post house, you'll probably be doing that during normal business hours, but for a shorter period of time, and you'll get paid a lot quicker. And I was like, I'm going to start looking at that route. So I was living in LA at the time, and it was not cheap.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that, and ended up interning, and I just really liked it more and more. And a job opened up back in Phoenix, and I wanted to move back here, and kind of worked at a place for a few years, and then went freelance for a while before opening up, my own studio, and
Which is AMP Studios.
which is Amp Studios. Thank you, plug. Thank you for the
Yes.
plug.
Downtown Phoenix,
Yeah,
Abbott Studio,
yeah.
right?
And I've been there since the end of 2004. I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a long time. I didn't realize you'd been there that long.
Yeah, getting
Okay.
old.
Yeah. And for your fun activities, I know you play a lot of music. Do you play in a group anymore? Or do you just play by yourself for fun? How do you
Both.
exercise that creative bone?
I I do teach a little bit on the side,
Oh, okay.
um, and I do play a lot on my own. I do have a band thing going on, but everything's been so screwed up since the COVID-19 stuff that it's funny you bring it up. Actually, I was gonna call the guys because we've kind of been on a 2-month hiatus here so far, and I think we might at least be able to start rehearsing, but I think half the guys probably have no issue in trying to book a gig, and the other half of us are like, yeah, that doesn't seem like a good idea right now. So I don't know, but we'll see where that goes. But it's just it's kind of a for fun project that we're doing.
Okay. So people can find you on Facebook and Instagram. Are you on Twitter? I don't think I've ever tagged
I
you.
do have actually a Twitter account. I don't use it very much for
Okay.
the business, but I do have one there.
Okay.
But Amp Studios AZ with underscores in there is my Instagram. And I think it's just Amp Studios on Facebook.
Okay.
They'll find me.
Yeah, we can find you.
You can connect. It's fine.
Yeah. And you have a website, I'm pretty sure.
I do, but I don't really do anything with it. So,
Right, but your contact info's on there if people want to reach out to you, right?
Yeah. And I have a Vimeo page too, which once in a while is updated.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can't. It's funny. A lot of the projects I work on, I can't actually post a lot of things. You know, I've been doing a lot of movies lately, and yeah, unfortunately, I can't post a lot of those kind of projects. You know, so
Right, because it's confidential.
yeah, until released at least. But yeah, it's also not really footage and stuff that I own and other companies own it, and sometimes big.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Joe tagged your studio.
Thank you, Joe.
And Randy Forte says hi. Do you know Randy?
I do know Randy.
I know Randy too.
Well.
Hi, Randy. That's so fun.
Hi, Randy.
Blast from the past, Randy. I did a short film with him and played cello in it.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, we enjoyed your cello playing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I had somebody ask me the other day, so do you just like play all the time? And I was like, oh, no, I don't. I have no calluses anymore. I needed to, when Bruce and I were getting ready to shoot this, I had said to him, hey, I need the music because I really need to practice. I need ample time to work my calluses back up and, you know.
I was actually curious, was that stuff that you wrote, was it original or was it stuff you were performing?
No, I was performing it. One was a Brahms piece.
Okay.
And the other, Doug Durant wrote for me, Laura's husband.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so he wrote a sonata for me, a cello sonata for me. So it was the third movement of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, a little bit of it. And I changed the tempo a little bit just because he wrote it a little bit faster, but we used it for Buchanan's funeral service. So we slowed it down a little bit, which was better for me because it was really hard.
It ended up working great. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I think that was probably the most nerve-wracking part because they wanted to try to use that audio at least so that I didn't re-record any of that cello. So that was nerve-wracking for me.
Well, it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I think it did. So it was good. Well, this has been fun, Abbott.
It has been. Thank you.
It's so nice to see you in person, and well, not in person, but live, I guess is the better way to say it. You know, it's like people are just posting photos and whatnot, but it's nice to have a conversation.
It is. And thank you for having me on, and congratulations for getting this thing out. I know it's kind of been a long road, but
it's amazing how long it takes.
Yeah, well, it is a process.
Yeah, but it is. It's out there. It's streaming on demand and rent or purchase on a whole bunch of different platforms and DVD and Blu-ray. And thank you for your really hard work on it and excellent work on the film. I know we put you to work for sure.
It went through a few versions, that's for sure.
Yes, it did. Yes, we had quite a few picture locks. So,
yeah. We like to joke, pictures never locked.
I know. Well, it is now.
It's got to be now.
It's done. We're done.
Bruce, if you're still watching, no director's cut in the future, okay?
Yeah. No, we have that. That's the long version.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That one's done. That one's done too, right?
Okay, good.
We're set. So, All right. Well, thank you, Abbott. Again, this is Abbott Miller of AMP Studios. He was the re-recording mixer on Raising Buchanan, and I'm Amanda Melby, who was one of the producers, along with Joe Gruberman, and played Ruth. And this was Conversations with Cast and Crew. So thanks for joining me, Abbott, and have a great Sunday afternoon, everybody. And we'll see you next week for some more of these.
Yeah.
Bye.